I'm Lawrence Francis, host of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you to the Sierra de Gredos special series, produced in collaboration with DOP Cebreros. Today marks the first of a series of 3 episodes that will explore this region, which almost disappeared from the wine map. Today's episode features 2 pioneers of garnacha production in the region, Daniel Ramos of Bodega Daniel Ramos and Dani Landi of Comando G. In the next episode, I'll be covering the in-person wine event Conectando Gredos, which this year takes place in Avila, Spain on Sunday the 2nd of June. This is an annual wine fair held in Avila for wine professionals, which celebrates the rebirth of the region and showcases local producers. In the final episode, I'll be traveling around the region to show exactly what is happening on the ground. In all, giving you the most up-to-date information to understand this fascinating region. We kick things off today in the company of Daniel Ramos of Bodega Daniel Ramos and Dani Landi of Comando G. Broadly following Interpreting Wine's 6 wine stories approach, we'll meet them and get information about their projects before exploring the difficult recent past of the region, which, as I mentioned, was very much underappreciated for many years and almost disappeared. We'll get into the visual geography of the growing sites and terroir, which will in turn give us clues about the geology of the area, before each talks to their viticultural practices and talking to their wines and what that shows us about how they work in the cellars. Enjoy!
I'm Dani Landi, co-founder and co-owner of Comando G in Sierra de Gredos. I was born there in Mentrida village. In my personal situation, I'm very connected with the region because my family has vineyards there. And when I was a child, I remember my grandfather have to sell 1 plot each year to have enough money to maintain the rest, because he was a writer and nobody was dedicated in the wine business professional. And when you are a kid and your family goes to work every weekend and you're starting to help in the harvest with 12 years old, and then starting to plug with the tractor and pruning, and they educated us to be connected with our roots, with our place, and to be passionate with the nature, with the respect of the nature. And now I know that the Fernando's family as well, they were very connected with the mountains and landscape. And then everybody's talking about your village in a bad way. And in one point, maybe I felt, okay, I'm going to say no to this situation, and I want to live from in the vineyards. I was not expecting nothing. It was not a business plan. Fernando and I, we only feel like we were from there. We want to make wine together, and we have the enormous treasure gift from nature that the old vineyards was there, and for us it's a big gift from the before generation from us. And it's not about Fernando and I, it's not about Comando G, it's about a lot of people working in the sad days, in the very difficult days after Civil War, and working the old vineyards, even losing money every year. And then it's about, I think the wines connect the different generations through the earth, and then it's not about us. It's about the history of the place, and then for us it's like a mission to discover and to point to put in the map. The potential is enormous. I think it's one of the best places in the Mediterranean environment to make finesse wines, and it was 1 hour far away from Madrid, and it was abandoned. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So let's bring in the other of our pioneers today, which is Daniel Ramos of Bodega Daniel Ramos. And you do hear correctly when Daniel's speaking. He does have an Aussie accent. Daniel was born in Australia and moved to the area as an adult. So here he shares his introduction to Gredos.
I came here to Cebreros, San Martin, El Tiemblo, all this area that really cultivated me and made me have another look at what wine was. No.
Yeah.
So and with something that in those ages was devastated. No, that was the great variety of garnacha. Then we had a really garnacha movement around the world. What was great, because garnacha has got lots to say now. But at that moment was like a garnacha. Garnacha isn't really good, you know. There's some stuff that are making really nice at Châteauneuf-du-Pape centuries ago. And right now they are making really good stuff at Priorat, but in 2005 there wasn't much more. No, there was some cheap garnacha starting to be developed and making some good stuff, but not recognized still in Aragon. But well, this area, the center of Spain, garnacha, what's all this about? And then some other people in the area came along, and well, this area started to develop and to make really renowned wines all around the world.
Nowadays, we can happily talk about the DOP Cebreros being a growing region. So back in 2017, there were 8 wineries registered, and today there are 23. The growth has also been very attractive to producers from other parts of the world, including Catena Zapata from Argentina, which has a project in the area called El Revetón. The price of grapes is also increasing, and it seems as though the viability of the wine industry has been preserved. But while the temptation may be to focus only on the good times, I think it's also important to really understand the region, to get to know just how difficult things have been. Indeed, I think the main story about this region is that it almost disappeared. We hear so much nowadays about grape varieties nearly disappearing and being recovered, and that in itself is an amazing thing. But what about an entire region nearly disappearing? When that happens, something much more meaningful is lost. All of the knowledge and experience that's gone into growing that region in the past. And the amazing thing is that there was a long history of grape growing in the region. Indeed, wines made from the local Albio Real used to be known as Vino Precioso, precious wine. What could be better? So here's Dani Landi again to share his insight into just what happened that meant that this region nearly disappeared.
A few years ago, somebody visited us and we were tasting and walking around the vineyards, and they were very surprised with the beautiness and the place. And he said he was a international guy with a lot of experience around the world, and he said it's impossible to imagine that 1 hour far away from a capital in Europe has a place like that, completely abandoned, and nobody knows about that. Yeah. And it's not happened anywhere in the world. It's not happened in Italy or France. You are near to the international airport to Madrid, in Madrid, or big city, the capital of a country, and nobody knows about your place. That is amazing place. I think in 19th century, the railway between Madrid and La Mancha was built. And it was the first step to understand the decline of Gredos, because Gredos now there are amazing roads, motor highways, and good cars. But in 19th century, with donkeys, it took time to transport the wine from the mountains to the city. And it was starting with the railway. It was starting much cheaper and easier to bring millions of liters from La Mancha. And then I think it was the first step. Then Filosera. After Filosera, I think that garnacha is starting to be planted like everywhere, because before garnacha exists, but it was not the unique grape there. And to understand Gredos, we have to understand Spain. And Spain was marked with a civil war, and after the civil war, it's very different a civil war from the Second World War II in Europe, because after a civil war there was not a Plan Marshall, the Americans' money to restore many things, and after the civil war, brother against brothers in the same family everything was broke like a country. People used to live with not electricity or no toilet systems at home. It's difficult to imagine. We are Europe, but Spain was very, in 2 steps below, and nobody was thinking, of course, in gastronomy. The people was thinking in survive. Then when after in 1716 appeared the cooperatives, and this is another tip to understand, and then in a very poor situation like a country with a cooperatives in these kind of regions, the price of the grapes are not enough to pay the petrol of the tractor, and then all the people felt like to be agriculture is the worst thing in the social scale, and ran away to the city. And 90% of the vineyards was abandoned from 70s to early 2000s, no? Then it's about money. It's not because the Spanish people are, more idiots or not sensible. If you compare with French or Italy guys, it's about the economic situation. And then in 82, democracy, the real democracy starting in Spain. And in 86, we went inside of the European community, and then the money of Europe started to work in Spain. And if you think in the in gastronomy in general, all the famous Spanish chefs, El Bulli, Sierra de Gredos Series, all the wave of fantastic restaurants starting in that days, not beginning of the 86. And in the wine is more or less the same. Of course, Rioja was there because the Bordeaux people came with the Filosera. Of course, Jerez was there because the English Empire. And maybe Vega Sicilia, like an island of quality. But the rest was very poor and bulk wines. Then the potential was there. The terroir was there. Spain has a lot of different terroirs, amazing potential, huge, big quality varieties.
I think we can categorically say that the darkest days for the Sierra de Gredos are very much behind them. But again, I do think it's important to understand just how bad things were in order to fully appreciate the work of the DOP Cebreros and pioneers such as Dani and Daniel, who both, as well as displaying the terroir of Sierra de Gredos, do also want to pay homage to those that came before them. And I think this is where I'd bring in Daniel Ramos to talk about his Capi range of wines. These come out as a result of conversations between Daniel. This range of wine was born out of a conversation, really, between Daniel and local winemakers. What Daniel has managed to capture in terms of this range are the techniques which were developed and used extensively in the region at its peak, meaning that now, with his modern and professional wine training, he's able to shine a light on the techniques and approaches that were evolved and passed on generation to generation, but came not as a result of formal training, rather through their closeness to the land, observation, and of course, tasting and enjoying the wines.
We make the two brands. One is Capi, or as it sounds in Spanish, Capi. That comes from Capitán de Australia, Captain of Australia. That's how they used to call me in high school, and I thought it was a good way to remember that brand, that name, going back to the origins of winemaking in the area. Just learning and seeing what all our grandparents used to do in the area, and I just did so, and not only using what they used to use, like amphoras or concrete or even wood, but also about how they used to make it, with very long and extended periods of maceration, with the use of floor, that even though they didn't want the floor to come along, it just came along, and it gave that special taste to their wines that they didn't really understand what was going on, but they said, "Oh, this is great, this year we had a great wine." And they didn't know why, but it just happened,
So on the back of a really deep understanding of the culture and people, let's now look at geography. Because if you haven't been lucky enough to visit the beautiful Sierra de Gredos, you may not have a picture of just how it looks and what its main influences are. So here to fill us in is Dani Landi again, talking about those large influences from a high level, but then very much taking us right down onto the ground and recounting some of his earlier experiences of going around and looking for new vineyard sites and just what it was that the vineyard sites were telling them about what might be a great place to make wine.
Gredos has two valleys. The South Valley that we call Tietar Valley because the name of the river, and the North Valley that is Alberche's river valley. Two different valleys, that means two different climate in terms of rainfall, temperature and landscape as well. We're farming in both, but now we are very focused in the North Valley. I remember with our mom's car broken many times, looking for in the different parts, and we always asking to the local people, hey, do you know if in your village are, the highest vineyard in cold places? And people looking to us like these crazy young people. We were focused to the most rainy places. We were looking for the most rainy and more altitude, and to observe the landscape was very important in that days, because if you have, oak trees or chestnuts or ash trees, that means that place have a lot of rainfall, and it's very different if you have pines or fig trees or more Mediterranean vegetation. And then we start like that, blank page, nobody knows which is the valley and which is the vineyard, the village. It was not a reference. For us was a big handicap in the beginning, but not only in the bad way, because we have the opportunity to discover like pioneers and take time to selection the best vineyards around the Gredos Mountains with time. Nobody was interested. Now it's impossible to buy vineyards. Well, not impossible, but it's very expensive. And everybody is like a hunt. Everybody wants to buy the small altitude plots and whatever. That is something fantastic for us. But we have the handicap. It took a lot of years to understand Gredos, but at the same time we have the opportunity to do it. And then we start in the south, and little by little, first of all, the first step, I remember it was go to El Real de San Vicente village. Then we discovered Rozas de Puerto Real, Cadalso de los Vidrios, Cebreros. In Cebreros was Telmo Rodriguez starting. Then, and step by step going up. And we discovered in 2009 Alto Alberche region, that is the highest vineyard in Gredos, and is the most high mountain weather. It used to be a glacier, and it's the landscape is, in the south is green meadows, and it used to be cultivated tobacco or lemon trees, and in the north is the land of the 1,000 boulders of granite. The landscape is gray, and is the limit for viticulture, and the vineyards there has much more density, and it's until 1,200 meters altitude.
So things really have moved on a lot since those early days of Fernando and Dani looking around for sites. The DOP Cebreros currently has 23 wineries, and 370 wine growers share the 520 hectares of vineyards. So doing the maths, vineyards here are very small. So to better understand the geography, the geology, and then how these combine and show up in the glass, here is Daniel Ramos again to take us on a virtual tour of 3 of his sites that he bottles as single vineyard garnachas. And I think expertly in this way makes the connection between the conditions in which the grapes find themselves and how the final wine appears in your glass.
To discover these vineyards, well, I remember in 1998 when I first wine made this plot. We mixed it up with some other plots that I already made wine out of them, but the wine at the end had such a singularity that I said, "Well, this has to be from this plot." But Daniel, look where it is. It's by a stream in a quite humid place, rootstock here is Riparia Gloria, what means that it's the rootstock that is suitable for riversides and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's also kind of unbalanced, that at the end it makes a really beautiful and balanced wine. Well, that's how you learn how perfection can come along, no? Yeah. The most perfect things have got lots of imperfections, no? So that's the beauty of this plot, for example, Los Chorrancos. A schist on a north face, surrounded by forests. That's the big thing that keeps us away from frosts. And with a stream on the side, because this is a place that doesn't have much water, especially in summer. We can have 3 months without a rainfall, so that doesn't help at all. So I'm always looking for some water by my big plots, by my big vineyards, and they really give a singularity. They really give a special taste to the wines. And another plot that we're going to go to, Llano Toledo. There we've got the hottest place to make the south facing plot, no? And it's on granitic sandy soil. So what's the best over there is that we've got a very shallow soil. So we're talking about the deepest part of the soil there in that plot is like 25 centimeters of soil. The rest is rock. And the plants over there really have to struggle to survive. No, so they give their best because they have no time to do any other thing. They have to do their best and survive. That's the only thing they can do, no? So we've got a really beautiful wine that is made out of that vineyard, and it's just there on the other side of the valley. So close, and we could say in taste-wise, so far away. And we go up to the mountain and we go to another schist plot. And that schist is Cebreros Gala. And it's in the mountain of Los Galayos. It's the only place where I've got plots that there isn't any kind of water flow around or something like that. But it is true that that there has to be some kind of subterranean water underneath, because that place has got a really special freshness. No, all the area. So over there, it's one of the freshest garnachas that we will taste. And of course, the views are incredible. You can see all the north face, all those forests. And the vineyards are slightly higher, up to 900 meters high, what also helps to keep that freshness in the wine. And finally, another plot on the north face, coming back to this side of the valley. That is granitic sand also, but once more, sand is, just gets rid of the water so easily that you've got to find a plainer place, no? So it can try to retain as much as possible. And that's another plot that is an incredible plot, north face on the top of the hill, on what we call here the cresta. And it's able to retain enough and to give very little berry size garnacha, what gives a great concentration but gives all that elegance that the granitic sandy soil gives.
In closing of this first episode of this 3-part series, I'm going to hand it over to Dani Landi, who's taking us right up to date with what it's like to be in Gredos right now. So we've come on this amazing journey already, hearing Dani and Daniel talking about the past, the culture, the geography, and really the rebirth, the rediscovering of what's always been there, what's always been so incredible and so amazing, but that it's needed these pioneers to go out there and to communicate that through their winemaking. Dani, I think, does a really great job now of bringing that all together, and then also putting out a hand to you, the listeners, to say that you can get involved as well. And I'm going to be sharing also at the end of this podcast details of the Conectando Gredos fair, which is taking place in June, which is absolutely a fantastic way for you to get involved.
Well, Gredos now is very different than 20 years ago. Now we have a community, and it's very... To me, that means a lot. And of course, for the other pioneers of Gredos, I think it's the same, that you saw yourself alone, like an island, and now there are a community of new people. As I said before, people are starting to be proud of their place, and it's awesome. Now there are no vineyards abandoned. People are starting to plant, and new wineries is coming. There are very interesting people, newcomers, some fantastic, and yeah, we blooming like a region. And I must to say that everybody that wants to start a project in Gredos is more than welcome. There are space for more projects there, and yeah, every growing area needs different voices and different good producers, and we hope in the future to see how this community is going to increase, and in one point we feel proud in that way if we can help in our little in a little part. And because when you are in an abandoned area, the most important behind the bottle, of course, here we are because we love taste wines, drink wines, and we love when you discover a great wine and to drink, of course. But behind the bottles, I think is much important things. That every bottle from Gredos means that it's possible to rescue abandoned vineyards. It's more people working there. It's a call to everybody that we exist, and our mission, like in that point, is at the end of the days, everything could be a different meaning if the schools open again in the old small villages in the mountains, and we need more people living there.
A massive thank you to the DOP Cebreros for your support in producing this episode, and of course to guests Dani Landi and Daniel Ramos for your recollections. As promised, here is all of the information that you need to know about the Conectando Gredos event. This is where you have the opportunity to taste the wines that are being made today in Gredos, and the 2024 edition will feature 30 wineries from the Sierra de Gredos. 13 of these 30 belonging to the DOP Cebreros and 17 that are outside of the PDO. Some of the more well-known producers in attendance are Alfredo Maestro, Bona Beliva, Viñadores de Gredos, and of course Daniel Ramos, among others. I think this really shows that the DOP Cebreros thinks it's important the union between producers making wine in the area, and that the overarching theme is this is the place to come along and try great garnacha and great Albio Real, poured for you at the hands of the producers making the wines themselves. The event takes place in the spectacular setting of the Iruelas Valley, a popular nature reserve. And of course, apart from the wine, there will be music and authentic food prepared by the Mesón de Doña Filo, which is a very famous local restaurant. All in all, it sounds like an unmissable event if you can get across there. The event is only open to professionals and private collectors and attracts a mix of distributors, sommeliers and press with a limited capacity of 250 people. To learn more about this year's event and to be kept informed about plans for 2025, please do send an email to dopcebreros@gmail.com and they will send you all the information that you need. And indeed, next time in the Sierra de Gredos series, I'll be reporting from Conectando Gredos 2024. I can't wait to get there and to share with you very soon. See you then.